Welcome everybody, my name is Krush AK and this is the Market Meditations podcast. We chat with fascinating people from around the world to extract mindsets, routines, stories and habits to help you build richer lives. Meditators, today we have on the show Jack Tao. He is the CEO of Phemex, the fastest growing cryptocurrencies derivatives exchange of 2020. He's an ex-Morgan Stanley VP and we dive into how he's managed to build such a big, successful business, how he manages huge teams of people, and how he continually invests and trades himself. Meditators, welcome to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. Today I have with me the CEO of Phemex, Jack, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Phemex has been one of the fastest growing exchanges this year. Let's dive into how he's managed to dominate the market and what his business building secrets are. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much, Krosh. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm just as excited. So let's start with what brought you to crypto, Jack, because I know you had a traditional markets background.
I was introduced by one of my friend. He know about Bitcoin and asked me to start looking into the white paper. And we did a little bit of mining at the very beginning. And then after I look deeper and deeper, I start to love the technology, and that's how I started.
Was that a side business, the mining, from your main job?
Oh, that's right. So it was just a part-time hobby, and we collected graphic cards. We were mining Ethereum at that time, and made a good money on top of that. And then I started thinking about this industry, and for mining it's just a hobby, but when I look into blockchain technology and the crypto, I to my point of view, it's more like a value transfer, free money transfer platform natively. So I'm a brokerage business, working for a brokerage in Morgan Stanley for more than 10 years. So it's kind of instinct that I feel that I can do something in this industry. That's basically how we started.
Wow. So have you always been doing this, side businesses, since is that something you've been doing for a while, or was Bitcoin the first thing? Have you always had this entrepreneurial gene inside of you?
I do. So it's my work is very busy. I manage a big team globally, and I kind of force myself to learn some new technologies. I was looking into quants trading, and I look into the AI, and then I find the blockchain, and it's all my hobby at the very beginning. But when I spend more and more time, I started loving those technologies, and it's just like Steve Jobs said. Sometimes you learn something, it's just a dot, but sometimes you can connect those dots to be a line, and that's a true story for me.
It really is. And it kind of brings into, why did you decide a derivatives exchange? Why was that the thought that you decided to go, okay, this is where I can integrate into crypto? What pointed you in that direction, besides just your experience, because you were working for a brokerage for a long time?
At the time we started the business, there are lots of crypto exchanges already, Coinbase, Binance, etc. And we think that my personal experience, I used almost all those exchanges, HitBTC, etc., all the exchanges globally, and I feel that it's hard to compete with them at that time. And then I look into crypto, and at that time, in 2017, that the price skyrocket, and the Bitmax is still small, and you feel that's very hard to sell, right? There's no margin at all at that time, so that's why the price all been driven up, because there's no much tool for a trader or the market to hedge the position. That's all foremost, right? And then back in 2018, 19, and more derivatives exchanges in the market, and we instantly feel that this is a good opportunity, and it's a kind of a less competition, but we think that the market can grow. Compared to the traditional market, usually the derivatives market is much bigger 100 times bigger than the spot market. And we believe that that's going to do the same in crypto. Plus, those exchanges are not doing very well at that time. We think that based on our technical background and business background, we can do much, much better.
Oh, wow. So specifically, what can you guys do better than the competition? What did you say? What did you see in the market where you're like, oh, I can do that better. Oh, I can do that better. Time to launch an exchange.
So running exchanges, there's many challenges. First, technology, and there's no exchange in the world, in the traditional market, running 24 by 7 without stopping. Right, so you need a very strong tech team to guarantee the performance, guarantee the throughput, guarantee the security, and guarantee scalability. Lots of things, and it's more like think about the Google search engine. It's almost never going down, but it doesn't have. You have like a couple of seconds or minutes latency. That's tolerable. But for a trading engine, that you have to deal with a microsecond or even less latency, and you have to guarantee you have to provide the same qualities of service like Google. So it's very challenging, and I feel that even for my knowledge, I maybe can do 80% at that time. If I really can do, I have spent a lot of time to figure out, and also I need a team for this. So I think that's something at that time, not all the exchange, even for those very strong, very famous spot exchange, they still have outages, and they have security breaches and many other issues. They clearly don't know how to run this business, how to win the trust from clients. We feel that that's a lot of work we can improve. Lots of feel we can improve for this. Besides the technology challenges that it's all those exchange running globally, and this new technology, you have to manage people. You cannot run this by one or two, a very small team, right? It's heavily operated system. You need to talk to clients, and you need to follow up with those technologies. So I feel very challenging, and then I get excited and more. So then finally we start to work on this.
Okay, so I'm fascinated by building businesses, and I know our listeners also love hearing how that happened. So Jack, you keep talking about how the team expands and how the team is essential, getting the right people who can do the right things. Where did it begin? So let's start with, where did it begin? Who was the core team, and what was the first steps you guys took to build Phemex?
Well, that's basically all the team members and initial team members, old colleagues or friends, and we have connections through many years, which is good. So I always connect with a lot of people. I keep the connections, maintain those relationships, and I know that one day that I'm going to build a team to do some business. So that's
how do you maintain those, Jack? Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm quite curious. As you build this network, how does one maintain it? How do you stop them becoming distant? How do you keep track of this network? Because 10 years in the industry must have built you a huge network.
Yeah, it's not. I did this on purposely. So I like to make friends, and especially that we all technical guys, we have a lot of common topics, and we keep exchange informations, job opportunities. Even that I was working in New York, some friends is working in Asia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and I find it's not very hard to, because you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have lots of other WeChat communication tool. Sometimes you just record their numbers or birthday, say hello, say, hey, what's up, what's going on, right? It's for me, it's not take much effort. Besides, we're glad that we can keep communication. Lots of people travel to New York, sometimes for work, sometimes for holidays. And it's fun that you have friends globally, and you always get lots of information in the world, not just through the news. And then when we started, and we actually prepared for about like 2 years. Like we need money, we need a team, we need experience, not just technical people. We need someone can do the marketing, operation wise, security, right? So then we started like to tell our friends about this blockchain technology, and I fly over to Asia during the holiday, during my like vacation, like to meet friends and say, hey, this is very cool that we can do some knowledge share with between friends, and that's how we started.
Fascinating. So a group of friends, and I'm guessing there's trust there. Trust is obviously one of the most important things when you're going in those early stages to building a business. So you had this small team, you planned for 2 years, and then obviously comes the time to expand. How do you hire? What are the most important things to hiring someone and bringing them onto the Phemex team?
We're relatively small. We still like majority of the employees are introduced by the team member, right? We somehow connected. We also have a big portion that from for social hiring, and it's just to go standard like Facebook, Google interviews. It's pretty much the same. And what we do like is when do the interview, we will do some small tasks to like see if we can get along with this guy, if he is totally stranger to us. It's very important for a small team, especially for a startup team, that we all know each other, and we all like very used to the way we are cooperating. Right, even that we have many foreigners, different from different culture, and we have to make sure that we don't waste time or effort to manage a personnel issue. If we like a big firm, if it's very common that if hire one people and he spent 3 months and he's not getting along with the team, and that's it's a huge loss for the startup, because we will allocate resource to hire this position, and we spend a lot of time to train to help him to start with. But 3 months later, he felt he cannot fit with us, and he just left. It's not just a bad thing for him; it's also bad for us. So besides that, it's very important to establish the culture in a small group at the very beginning, so that when you're getting bigger and bigger, though this kind of a root culture can be inherited naturally, right? So everyone in our team has his own field of expertise, and they can always everyone is contributing team, no matter title. So that's really, we want to everyone be hands-on to contribute to what we're building. That's so that we can very easily to achieve the team achievements. So this kind of happiness, it's the best thing of a small startup like us.
Absolutely, I can relate with that, having tried nothing on the scale of Phemex, but built a few startups myself. The culture becomes so important that it's almost like first you want to find someone that fits the culture, then you worry about whether or not they have the right skills to do the job. It's that much more important. So how did you guys build the culture? What is the Phemex culture? What was that process, or did it naturally arise?
We set up our core values, kind first, improve every day, help each other, and giving back. So this is that we think that this business naturally is that we want to, it's kind of service, right? You have to put a kind first. You have to do the right thing, right? Sometimes you even sacrifice a little bit of time or a little bit of the profit, and to get the reputation. It's very important, because that takes years for Wall Street to build. So I think that for cryptos it's the same. And the improve every day is twofold. One is for personal. We want, for each person, we want to he enjoying the experience in working with us to grow through this journey. And also that this industry is very challenging. Lots of new technology, new ideas pop up every day. We have to keep learning. and this is we have to do this. That's how we should survive. Right. The third thing is that help each other, and that's true that for modern startup that you can't do everything by yourself. You need managers need to have a long-term plan for his team members, and we also need to think about as a team that how we can help others to achieve the goals, not just for yourself, right? The last thing is giving back, and that we think everyone has a responsibility, and to understand that what we achieve right now is as part of lucky or part of blessed. So we needed to be thankful and to do our best to give back to the society.
I can, having worked with Phemex, confirm that I definitely see those values shine through. I've had a lot of interaction with Cecilia, who has been lovely and embodies a lot of that. You mentioned a few points which I want to expand on a little bit. You talked about reputation in the industry, how reputation is such an important thing for an exchange to build. What goes into that, and what do you guys do to make sure Phemex has the best reputation in the space, which I'm sure is your goal?
Right. That's also why we call ourselves Phemex, right? It's from the Greek goddess called Pheme, who's representative of the reputation. And I joined Morgan Stanley in 2008. Right. So that's financial crisis. And we see that the banks are suffering from what they did. They did bad, and the regulation follows. They get punished, and they have to reestablish the reputation. Lately, you can see Wells Fargo and a lot of other banks, because of the misconduct, that they get fined a lot. It's a huge consequence. Right. So in Wall Street, most people thinking about that's a huge profit, but they neglect the fact that when the bank did something bad, and they always pay back. Right. So you have to always remember that you are a service company, and you have to take care of your reputation. And people put money, probably life savings, into your wallet or into your system. You need to guarantee that this is secure, not just by saying that. You have to use a mechanism like insurance fund and some security auditor, and also your working process needs to improve to make sure you do your best to guarantee this kind of security. So maintain the reputation in financial world is really important. That's my personal experience throughout my 11 years experience in Morgan Stanley. And all those companies who, like Morgan Stanley, about more than 75 years, something like that. And they have generation of leaders, and most of the time they are doing is try to keep the reputation. So whenever users want to kind of financial service, the first name pop up will be those Goldman Sachs name, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. This is value we think a brand should have in cryptocurrency world as well.
Are you building Phemex with the intention of, say, a 75-year or beyond lifeline?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but that's probably that's the goal we want to achieve. And it's maybe too early for us to say we want to build a 100-year-old company. Right now, we still want to try and do our best, and let's see what we can do. I don't want to the dream may be too big. It's hard to say, but yes, that's in our deep in our heart. That's actually what we want to do.
I absolutely love that. That sort of ambition is incredible. And Phemex are on the right trajectory. Let's see what happens. So one thing you mentioned was the regulations and them having an important role in all of this as well. Now, that's part of the reason I believe there's so much opportunity and inefficiency in the cryptocurrency market, because if you commit serious resources to this, any day a new regulation could come out that seriously impacts your business. Especially someone like Phemex, who's a derivatives exchange. How do you guys prepare for and navigate being a part of the financial revolution with governments all over the world throwing in new regulations left, right, and center?
Yeah, this is a big question. I'm trying my best. So I think regulation definitely will coming, and it's also important. Some users do like to be regulated. It's kind of can bring give them a more sense of safe. Secure that to use your platform, and on the other side, that beside that, some regulation for KYC and money laundering, we do need to considering, and because that that's it is possible that a criminal is using your platform to do some bad thing, and that's something like hacking events. That's definitely that. Proper regulation has a lot of positive things that's no one can deny. The second thing is regulation also kills the innovation if it's not be established properly, right? And all the financial system is kind of broken, and the government or the regulator put more and more rules on the business, and it kills those small business and the innovation, because to maintain the cost of compliance is just too much. And we can see like JP Morgan becomes bigger and bigger, right? Now there's a blockchain technology. It has a lot of cool features, right? Immutable and traceable, and it has some security features as well, and the technology is still evolving, and everyone is looking forward to see this might be another option to solve the problem that the old system cannot solve, and maybe make the world more connected than before, because people can freely and securely transfer values over the internet. That's and no need to worry that this is controlled by one powerful wheel in the world, right? So there's some user bases in there. So I really hope that the government can give more space to this industry and to help it grow healthily. So that's some we all hope so. We're all hoping so.
Yeah, that was a very balanced view on regulation, even though it can heavily impact all sorts of businesses in the industry, especially something like Phemex. It also, when used correctly, can have a lot of benefits, help without limiting innovation, control, and make the world a better, safer space. Something you mentioned, which I loved, was the old system is broken. Jack, why do you think the old system is broken? And I'm especially curious to hear your opinion, because you were right into the deep end of the old system.
Those is mainly is because there's too many regulations in even United States when I was there, and there are lots of noise. There are lots of appeal that they want to deregulate, right? They don't want like a JP Morgan this much big, and they become one of the biggest bank in the world, and that's partially because the regulation, right? They have the enough resource to be compliant and to acquire the other companies, right?
Jack, so, if I may, why don't they want JP Morgan that big? What is the reasoning for that?
If that's then which means that they control more resources, right? They can even do more damage. And there's a book called Too Big to Fall that's eventually become true, because what are we gonna do with such a big company, right? It's I think in some other countries like Korea, they have Samsung almost control all the industry and the financial in that country, right? They kind of like hijacked the policy over there. So so people don't like monopoly by nature. So they like even you can see Google get sued by the government as well due to the same reason. And so decentralized never have a good technology to be implemented. Blockchain is for now is the only hope. So people extremely like the idea to be decentralized and still have the feature of security. So that's really even revolutionary to my point of view, and it's great. It's just a filled hole of what people are waiting for so many years.
What would stop a decentralized monopoly building? For example, Bitcoin is great, but there's nothing stopping monopolies building within that, like huge owners. We already have people controlling huge amounts of the supply, individuals or companies.
Yeah, that's actually another topic, and the question is if there could be improvement on this technology to be less monopoly or even harder. Like POS is one solution, one idea they keep trying, and maybe there's some other ideas can just make it a degree less than people would expect. But monopoly probably the nature. That's almost true for all the business, and eventually that after competition you will see that 80% of the market is occupied by like 20% of the company, right? This is we think that at this point that maybe that's a miner, like in Bitcoin, miner has a very huge power. So far, due to the price rise of the Bitcoin, they have less interest to do bad thing at the moment. But it's possible that some nation or government will try to control the mining system, and that's possible. But may never happen, may happen. We don't know. It's all depends on how this technology can bring us to.
And that's why I love your use of the word hope, because it's a hope. Right now, there are flaws and imperfections within it, which you are clearly very well read on. Jack, let's switch gears. This is going to be a little more personal. Do you trade and do you invest yourself? I want to get into your mind with all this experience in two different industries and how you personally trade and invest yourself. So starting with, do you trade or invest?
I am not a successful manual trader. So I also participate in the Phemex arena. And my current P&L is negative a little bit. But I just try the platform and to see from a user point of view that whether the product can be improved. But I don't actively trading nowadays, and one of the reasons is due to the time that I don't have much time to look into do the analysis. Sometimes, right, and usually most of the time I invest myself. I read more books or work with my team to have some new ideas, and this occupied most of my time, right? And so I'm not actively trading. So I hope maybe if that's also I was thinking before I started Phemex that if I should be a full-time trader to build my trading bots at that time. I do have a lot of college from Morgan Stanley is building trading bots. Mm-hmm. Right, some of them made a lot of money, and that's also one option to me at that time. But eventually, I think it's more fun to open an exchange.
I mean, business building is really fun. And even though you don't trade, do you just keep all your investments in, say, cash, or do you invest in the stock market, property, Bitcoin?
For now that it's natively decentralized, I have my 4K. I never touch it. I have some cryptos, and but I just like a holder in my wallet. Then most cash. Yeah, I think a majority is cash or equivalent. And
Is there a reason? That seems very risk averse, especially because you're quite young, and there's a while for that to build. I would like to hear the reasoning if you're willing to share, of course.
no, I don't know. I never thought about it. How I should allocate those. As long as I feel that it can support my basic life needs and should be okay. I don't think. I don't think that people should take too much care about how much you have. Once you have a really good career, it's kind of that everything coming after that.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, and I do love the philosophy behind not worrying too much about hoarding resources and stuff like that. But you did mention investing in yourself, and you brought up books, so my listeners would definitely not be happy if I didn't ask, Jack, what are your top book recommendations? What do you think everyone should read?
Oh, that's a very hard question. So, mastering Bitcoin. Now, I personally I like the book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, written by what's the name?
Dale Carnegie, I think.
Yes. That's one of my favorite book, and it changed my. It's kind of changed my personality, like how to interact with others. And
me too, man. That's incredible. Please share.
And another book, Thinking Slow and Fast. These two books. That's one of my two of my favorite. The last one will be the book called Peak.
Oh, I've never heard of Peak.
Peak, P-E-A-K. It's also written by a Nobel Prize winner. It is talking about how the book basically says there's no genius in the world. It's all about how you train yourself. So everything you can train yourself to be the expert. I really like that book. The book talks about that there's no willing power in human gene, right? Willing power is just you have a positive feedback of what you're doing, then you become more and more like what you're doing, and you spend more time to practice, to learn, to improve your skill. That's how you become a genius. I really like the book. It basically tells you you can do everything if you train yourself properly and you choose the right path of a career. So that's also a great book. And there are many. I also like Harry Potter. If you want to share, I read all the 7 or 8. That's another one, right? Lately, there's 8 books, and that's also my childhood. That's my favorite book.
Harry Potter, that's incredible. Wow. I'm going to cover every single one of those, including Harry Potter. Now, How to Win Friends and Influence People, man. That also changed my life a little bit as well, because I started my first business at university. And at the time, I was quite arrogant and very mathematically minded. All I wanted to do was make money. And if someone could make me money, we make money, we do business. If not, it doesn't matter. And it cost me so many deals because people wouldn't want to work with me because I didn't care about making friends or influencing people. I just separated that from business. Then I read that book off someone's recommendation and it changed everything. How did that change your personality? When did that happen? That sounds like an awesome story.
It's very simple that you can't do things alone nowadays, right? It's different from like maybe 10 or 20 years ago. You have a great idea. You go to your garage and work out the products, and then you can sell on the street. Right nowadays, building a business like go to a factory shopping. You shopping this part, shopping that part to compose everything together, glue everything together. It's truly very important that everyone is seeking opportunities for grow his wealth, grow his knowledge through the journey, and you have to think about others, what others needs, right? It also in the end, when after we retired, that how you make long-term friendship, right? It's all about that how to try your best to achieve mutual benefits, put our feet in other shoes to think about what others need and how everything can work to win-win, right? That's also true even for kids, right? Even how to deal with kids. I have two boys, and that's it's the book is still working for me because kids are more like they are not reasonable all the time, right? They have their emotion, and you have to understand why they have such kind of basic emotion, and once you think deeper and deeper, and that you understand better, you understand yourself better, right? When you get angry and sometimes when you get anxious, and how you control your emotion. I think that's a very important skill throughout the life. It's almost the key to the life, how to live comfortably.
I couldn't agree more. Being able to remove all of that stuff, the anger, the anxiety, the anxiousness, it just stops you performing. It stops you thinking clearly. It affects every single aspect of your life. Couldn't agree more there. Are you going to get your kids to read How to Influence People, or have you already done that?
Sorry, your question, I didn't catch the question.
I said, are you going to get your children to read How to Win Friends and Influence People as well? Or have you already done that?
Haven't. They're still too young. I don't know how to train them. Maybe sometime they have their own experience. They will like the book. I will try to make them to discover this book by themselves.
Very nice, because you can't force a kid to read it. And you also mentioned Harry Potter at the end, and we can kind of divert into what do you like to do with your free time? Is it Harry Potter books? What else is it? Because the exchange must be crazy. I know it's 10 a.m. right? Sorry, not 10 a.m., 10 p.m. right now, and you're still up working on this podcast. What's your work-life balance like? What do you do on the life part of work-life balance?
Right now, I'm not very good at it, and there's a lot of urgencies that pop up from time to time. So I try to squeeze time, have more time to read more news, more white papers, and especially DeFi is very hot. I read a lot of good ideas and try to think about what's the future of the industry. And because when we are building exchange, and so very few people have knowledge. Like us know what's going on, what will be the future in maybe next 6 months, right? So, and also motivate me because that we are at the leading pack of this industry. So that most of the time I still most of the time I was working, and I spend less time with my family. It's hard, everyone has 24 hours, and I don't have a good solution to how to balance at the current state.
Neither do I.
Right. That's if you know, tell me.
I don't. Neither do I, man. Neither do I. It's so difficult, and that's why I keep bringing successful people on the podcast. And I'm like, "How do you balance it? What's the secret?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just don't." And that's maybe what leads to the crazy levels of success that you've seen and Phemex has seen.
Yeah, that's also changed. The age changes a lot. If you 10 years later, 10 years ago, people were talking about that you can use your leisure time to read some books, read a couple of pages, and actually it's not true. That sometimes you have to be very focused. It's more effective that you focus doing something and get rest and focus on something, not doing casually, right? If you're doing casually, probably something not really important. But you don't have 20 off hours. You have to save your energy to something really important. If that's the key to survive, and that's the only thing I know, that you have to spend your time on what's really important, and because the other time you have to take rest.
How do you decide what's important and what isn't?
I think one measure is if it failed, what's the cost? So sometimes it's hard to make a decision, say how much profit or what's the benefit you will get to do that. Then you can think in another way, like if we don't do that, what's the damage, right? That's something I was thinking in both ways.
So you assess the risk and you measure the opportunity cost. So the very nice mental model to have. Do you have any other mental models? And this is a difficult question on the spot, because I think that's what makes a good leader of a company, having these sophisticated mental models so you can make decisions better than the other people in the market who are your competition. What mental models do you use to consistently make good decisions?
It's hard to say that there's one skill I usually will use every time that I have to make a quick decision, and I will first slow down myself to ask a question: do I have to make a decision right now, or it can wait? Right. So then, if it can wait, majority of the time that you can wait. Actually, quick decision most likely to lead the wrong result. And to my experience, that it can always wait if you give you more time to think about it, to do some deep thinking, and you can make a bit better decision.
That is really fascinating. I'm taking that advice on board straight away. It's not something I'd actually specifically considered before either, but it makes so much sense that it's a bit of an illusion that stuff needs to be decided right there on the spot, especially in a high pressure situation. For example, say you're in a face-to-face negotiation, to say, I'll decide later, for example, as well, rather than making that decision right there and then.
Right, exactly.
Jack, I'd like to end this podcast by asking a question I like to ask most of the people who come on. And that is, what is the best investment decision you've made? And that doesn't have to be physical monetary investment. That could be a book. That could be a job you went into. That could be a business you started, for example, Phemex, and why. And then what is the worst you've ever made? That could be, again, it doesn't have to be the one that cost you money. It could be the one that was the silliest decision or not the best thing to do at that time. You can take your time to think of an example for both, but one of the best and worst business entrepreneurial decisions you have made.
I think the best investment is invest my own knowledge. One, I always make a decision and fully commit myself into this. So I joined the financial industry, and I have almost a zero background of financial. I was a software engineer, and I did some research, and I think that financial industry is perfect for a computer science graduate, because that we see that everything will be treated electronically, and that's the machine can do much better than the human. So then that's how I started. I keep investing to myself for 11 years until I started Phemex. So I always believe that invest yourself on what you are doing for a career is the best investment, and you get paid every year. That's a 100% return, right? So you're never gonna lose money on this kind of investment, and I think that's the best investment everyone should be really considering. I do see
Before
a lot.
You share the worst. Knowledge monetizes forever. That's absolutely something I could not agree with more. And your specialized knowledge has put you in that unique, incredible position to make Phemex. So very awesome advice there.
Yeah. I can't think if I have a very bad that I would regret in terms of investment. I think life is experience. Even sometimes something you tried didn't turn out to be good, and you still learn from it, and it's enrich your life. I don't think maybe you feel painful if you probably everyone did bought some stock and the price go in a different direction you would expect. And
did you ever buy a terrible coin in 2017?
Many times, but it didn't. I didn't do all in, but it's just a trial to some ideas. Especially when you were just begin, it's very common. But I don't think that's a bad experience, right? It makes you to grow. It helps you to grow and help to understand and push you to learn more, to try to get better. So to me, right? So bad experience is not a bad thing. I can't think of anything that I would regret.
Well, I love that. And that win or learn mentality is probably what allows you to be such an incredible CEO and continually drive Phemex forward. Your risk managed mindset, which is shining through everywhere. Even when we talked about your bad investments, you said you never all in because you calculate the risk on every decision. Jack, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I have learned so much. Particularly, I'm going to make sure I read that book, Peak, because I've never heard of it before. And if you're recommending, I definitely need to get that read. Before we wrap up this podcast, is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think it's very good. You made me tell a lot of things.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for hopping on. It's been amazing. Guys, check out Phemex. It's Jack's platform. If you're not convinced by now, make sure the UI will blow you away. It's an awesome exchange. And that is the end of this episode of the Market Meditations podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like us to continue bringing you fascinating people from across the world, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you like to listen to these podcasts, and share the episode with a friend. If you have feedback or an idea for a potential guest, reach out to me on Twitter at KarushAK, and do not forget we write a newsletter covering all important topics in crypto and traditional markets. We send it out 3 times a week. The Market Meditations newsletter. You also get early access to these episodes and you get transcripts and extra notes as well. So make sure to subscribe there as well.